Tucci with Atlas coming to you again today. And today we are going to talk about what goes into selecting an applicant for one of your vacant properties. So obviously you have to receive a completed application, and that doesn't mean an application that's completely filled out. That means an application that has not only everything filled out as requested and required, but also all supporting documents, as well as all additional people over the age of 18 who will be living in the property. So if you have a family of 4 with 2 adults and 2 kids, and only 1 adult applies because they're the breadwinner and the other spouse doesn't work, that still doesn't fly. You need to have all people over the age of 18 with submitted applications and screened. From there, when you have the submitted and completed applications with all documents requested, like IDs, social security cards, pay stubs, everything that you potentially could ask for, tax returns, things along those lines, you need to, at that point, then start the screening process and run a full credit history check, criminal history check, depending on your area. Now, make sure that's very important, that your area allows for you to check criminal history. So eviction history is another thing that you need to check, as well as verification of income and employment, and then any references that may come along as well. When you're checking on the credit profile, it's important to look at the history of the credit, not just look at a score, because you can have someone that maybe it's a young person renting their first place and they have little to no credit. Or you have someone with very deep, long-running lines of credit, but they've maybe had a bankruptcy, or they have, been laid off from a job, and recently they're starting to have non-payment figures. So it's really important to look at things like payment history, bankruptcies, and whatnot when you're looking at the credit applicant. From there, you're obviously going to look at eviction history. Obviously, if they've recently been evicted, they're probably not going to be a person that is suitable to be put into a rental. But also, again, with eviction history, you have to make sure that the area which you're in allows you to check that. So criminal history and eviction history, are 2 very important things that you need to look at. 2, income. Now there's their job, obviously. Typically, companies ask that you make 2.5 to 3 times the amount of rent in income pre-tax in order to qualify, depending on the credit history. From there, it's really important as well when you get into things like people who have housing vouchers in Section 8. In the state of California, it's illegal to not accept someone with a housing voucher or Section 8. So you have to consider that as part of their income. And then from there, a really important thing is that in the state of California, a lot of people say, okay, well, we're going to take applications until this day, and then we're going to run them all and pick the best. In the state of California, that is not allowed. In the state of California, the first qualified applicant or set of applicants that meets all standards set by fair housing guidelines is required to be given the opportunity to rent the property. So you cannot screen a bunch and choose the best. Legally, that is out the window. You have to screen one by one, and then once someone meets your standards, they have to be given the opportunity to rent. Now, typically the way that works is you would contact that person, send them a link to turn in their holding deposit, and as that is going on, you continue screening applicants, and then as you come across the next approved applicant, then you would do the same thing until somebody turns in their holding deposit. Once the holding deposit has been turned in, you would then remove the property from the market, and that holding deposit will turn into their security deposit once the lease is signed. A lot of people like to say, well, what if the person I approved barely scraped by and the next person's a doctor? Well, tough. In the state of California, you are not allowed to choose people based off of the best of the group. You have to give everyone the opportunity to rent in the order of which the applications are received. And on top of that, once you have an approved applicant that turns in the holding deposits, if you have 3 other people that have paid and you haven't screened their applications, you actually are also required to send back the application fee that those people were paid because you didn't process their applications. So that's just a quick, how-to on how to screen and properly offer a property to rent to potential residents. We didn't really go into things like fair housing very deeply, but fair housing is extremely important in California. It's even more. It's an even more massive topic. I highly recommend that if you aren't familiar with all the protected classes under fair housing guidelines, you really need to be. And there's a reason why, property management companies typically are very strict about how they will approve and not approve applicants, is because those laws are always changing, and it's part of our job to stay up to date with that. But that'll be a video for another time. So again, if you have any questions or want to get in contact with us, you can reach out to us at info@atlas-pm.com or on the phone lines 707-681-0639. Thank you very much, guys.